everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be going over a tier list of UFC fighters that I'm going to miss when they're gone. In order to limit how many fighters are going to be on this list, I have limited it to fighters that I believe within the next 3 years are going to start dropping like flies. I know some of them are going to be fairly shocking. Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is 34 years old. I don't think we have enough time with him. And then some that are obvious, like Jim Miller and Tony Ferguson, who honestly just need to leave right now. One more fight, we're done. But now that we're done with that little clarification, if you have a suggestion for me, leave it in the comment section below. I check the comment section. If you want me to do a tier list that you have thought up of, leave it in the comment section. I'll check it out. And with that out of the way, let's get started. First fighter that we're going to be covering is Colby Covington. Now, I'm going to say Colby Covington is going to go in our sad. Like, this is going to be our B tier. I understand why people don't like Colby. I don't even really like Colby. But kind of in the same vein, although to a much lesser degree, that I would miss Conor McGregor, and I don't personally like Conor. There is something about Colby Covington being in the mix over at welterweight that makes things more interesting. I like the beef that he has with UFC fighters. It makes fighters that, as much as people don't want to admit it, really don't have a personality. Kamaru Usman never had a crazy personality. Leon Edwards never had a great personality. Even now, he doesn't really have an awesome personality. Colby Covington made me root for them like they were the hero in a story. You can't do that without having a good heel. Now, is this an act? I think part of it is. Colby's also had a fairly tragic career if you think about it. He is one of the few UFC fighters ever to win the interim, and he lost the interim overnight. There is nothing that he did to deserve losing the interim title that caused it. He should have gotten the title shot before Kamaru did, and looking at what he was able to do to somebody like Tyron Woodley, he could have been the undisputed. But outside of having a tragic career, I'm going to say I'll be pretty sad. Like when Colby Covington finally announces he's done, whenever that will be, I'll hold up a little candle for him. Charles Oliveira. Bro, I will be either depressed or You know what? I'm going to say depressed, bro. Because as much as I like Charles, I don't think Charles will ever beat Islam Makhachev, especially now. I think Islam Makhachev is just that little bit better. The one thing that is a good caveat is Charles has a life of a movie. He really does. From everything from his fight with Max Holloway, where the doctor told him that he could possibly be paralyzed if he did this again, to him hearing this news and deciding, you want to know what? I'm going to go on a championship run. And he ends that off with defending the belt and, remaining champion. How does that not inspire you? I am so happy Charles has become a fan favorite in the organization because he has always been that underdog. Everything from being called a quitter by the organization to really proving that he is one of my favorite champions in UFC history. I'm not saying he's one of the best. I do like Charles Oliveira, though. I'm going to be fairly depressed when he's gone. Maybe not the most depressed, but it's going to be a tough time for myself and Charles Oliveira is done. Edson Barbosa. I'm going to be distraught. I'm going to be pretty dang sad, man. Edson Barbosa is a legend, okay? I understand that he didn't achieve, the heights of popularity like other people that he fought. The Khabib Nurmagomedovs, the Conor McGregor. I'm not saying he fought Conor, but, in that same realm of mystique. The Conor McGregors, the Khabib Nurmagomedovs, the Justin Gaethjes. Edson Barbosa, for whatever reason, despite having one of the coolest styles in MMA history, despite, in my opinion, being one of the of striking in MMA, doesn't get the recognition I believe he deserves. And this is what I'm worried about. He's going to go on a 2-fight losing streak, not even a 3. And he's going to announce his retirement in, like, Brazil or something. And the fans are going to be like, oh, Edson Barbosa. Oh, that's the guy that Khabib beat up. Yeah. I blame you for your ignorance for not knowing that Edson Barbosa is a legend in this sport and deserves to be a Hall of Famer. Honestly. So, yeah, I'm going to be very distraught, especially if they treat him like that. Max Holloway, depressed. I will be so sad when Max Holloway's done. And the sad part about it is we really are that close. I don't think Max Holloway fights for very much longer. Best case scenario, he does a few more fights at featherweight. I believe he does a fight in UFC 300 against maybe a Justin Gaethje. Maybe he does a fight against Aljamain Sterling. I don't think there's a lot of fights for him, honestly. Like, it really is the same. It reminds me of a Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman situation, only Max Holloway's just way more likable. Where he is the second best featherweight, but he's just fighting at the same time as Alexander Volkanovski. And I did say second best, okay? I do believe if you look at the caliber of talent that Holloway fought and Jose Aldo, I think it's very close, but I think by the end of Holloway's career, Holloway will be seen as just a tiny bit better than Jose. But I'll be extremely depressed. This actually all started from a post I saw. It was, who am I going to miss more, Max Holloway, Jon Jones, or Israel Adesanya? And, Max Holloway, I will actually be pretty depressed when he announces his retirement. Because I imagine it's going to be a pretty tear-filled, send-off. Jon Jones. Yep. I will miss Jon Jones as much as I will miss Colby Covington. Before you call me a casual, I want this to be said. I'm gonna rearrange the mic so y'all can hear me. Jon Jones, we know what it's like with a UFC without Jon Jones. I dare say a lot of you have experienced. Most of you guys probably became fans when Jon Jones didn't fight for 2 years, and I hate to be that guy. I really do, but Jon Jones was never this huge pay-per-view star. He just never was. There's a reason that Jon Jones, despite being, on paper, the greatest MMA fighter to ever live, was overshadowed by Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. Because they could sell, Jones couldn't. I won't miss Jon Jones as much as I would miss Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway, purely because I just don't have that connection with Jones. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe there will ever be a fighter that'll ever make it into the UFC that'll do what Jones was able to do at light heavyweight. That's not even a juice joke. No. I genuinely believe that we will never see a fighter do what he did. And I want that to remain that way. But I would be lying if I said that the light heavyweight division isn't infinitely more entertaining without Jones being champion and beating all these superstars. Jones was kneecapping the light heavyweight division because he was a super dominant champion that just wasn't super marketable. He wasn't that likable. It is what it is. I'm sorry. I'm going to be sad when he's gone, but at the same time, the UFC will actually become more interesting when Jones is gone. And he does hurt his case because he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. You're kneecapping the heavyweight division. That's what's going on here. Sad. Henry Cejudo. Not quite meh. It's close. I'll be bummed. Like, Cejudo, I understand Cejudo is a cringe lord. I understand all that. I understand why people don't like Cejudo. I don't mind the guy. He seems like a cool dude. But Cejudo is a legend of the sport. What he was able to do in the time that he was able to do it is extremely impressive. I understand the TJ Dillashaw fight's kind of meh, because TJ Dillashaw almost killed himself to make that weight. He does have a win over Demetrius Johnson. You can't take that away from him. Close, but I get it. Win over Dominick Cruz. Cejudo is another one of those guys that was a huge, I don't want to say a huge star. He was at his prime when the UFC was not mainstream and there wasn't a lot of highlight going on in these smaller weight classes. No, I hate to be this guy again. Nobody gave a shit about flyweight when Demetrius Johnson and Cejudo were fighting. Now, people care about bantamweight because O'Malley is fighting. Sometimes you're just a star. Sometimes you're at the height of your power when the division just isn't popular. And that's what sucks. And Cejudo is in there. I'll be bummed. But at the end of the day, it's not a huge loss because we know what a UFC without Cejudo looks like. And frankly, it doesn't make a huge difference. He's not a superstar. Gilbert Burns. I really like Gilbert, dude. Gilbert seems like such a genuinely cool dude. Like, every time I see a Gilbert Burns, like, Instagram reel or him, like, in the embeddeds, he always seems like such a chill dude to be around. Somebody also, like, mentioned a tier list that they wanted me to do as this most likable UFC fighters. Gilbert Burns would be in our A to S tier there, too. I really like Gilbert. Yeah, it's not going to make a huge difference like a Jon Jones and even a Colby Covington. But Gilbert Burns, really, I just really like the dude. He seems like an awesome dude. I'll be pretty distraught when he's gone. Alex Pereira. I won't be depressed because I know it's going to be a very short-lived thing. I'll be distraught. Now, this order is very interchangeable. Like, you can put these anywhere. I'm not going to be super needy on that. I'll be depressed when, not depressed, distraught when Alex Pereira's gone. Purely because I'm just here for the ride. It is so crazy seeing somebody like Alex Pereira, who really shouldn't be doing as good as he is. He really shouldn't be in UFC. But for him to do as good as he is doing, it is such a cool thing to witness as it's going on. Because I have a feeling Alex Pereira, when he's done with the UFC, it's just going to be this weird chapter of, remember when this guy named Poatan entered the UFC, beat Israel Adesanya, loses to Israel in the rematch, and becomes the light heavyweight champion? And I think he's going to do some other crazy stuff before he retires. But I think he'll defend the belt maybe one time. I think when he loses the belt, he's done. I don't think he stays very long. I don't think he's super interested in MMA. I think he's just happy he's getting paid, and I'm happy he's getting paid too. And I love that he's gotten the fan base so quickly, despite only really saying Chama and nothing really else. He knows Chama and Adesanya, and then we love him. Speaking of Adesanya, I'll be sad when Izzy's gone. Yep, I like Alex Pereira more than I like Israel Adesanya. I do like Israel more. Actually, I know. Yeah, I'm rearranging that. I'll be pretty sad when Israel's gone, because as much as people don't like Israel, and I'm not a huge fan of Israel either, Israel Adesanya fighting in the UFC has made the middleweight division pretty entertaining. He's created stars in Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira, and you need a star to make a star. That's how this business works. And Adesanya has done a lot for the middleweight division. And, yeah, he has some boring fights. Yoel Romero, I believe, is the worst title defense performance ever in men's MMA. Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza is the worst, I believe. But I'll miss Israel when he's gone. I'll probably get a drink that day. Just like pour one for my boy Israel. And then that's it. Jan. It's either, I'm going to say bottom of sad, because I understand Jan's not a huge star. Jan also doesn't do a lot legacy-wise. I think he's going to be gone very soon, though. I don't see him fighting for very long. But it is cool to see a guy that go from, like, being a can in the light heavyweight division, which really isn't that good to begin with, to going on this winning streak and becoming champion and beating Israel Adesanya. Like, you have to respect what Jan Blachowicz was able to do in his career. And yeah, I think that's the same level of sad, honestly. Like, I think everybody is more likable, other than Jon and Colby. Actually, only half of them are fairly likable. But Jan Blachowicz is going to be a guy that I'm going to be like, that's a guy that was able to win the belt on his way out, probably got paid pretty good money, and kind of proved against the odds. Next up is Dominic Reyes. He needs to retire now, and frankly, if he announced, like, this just in, Dominic Reyes is retiring from the sport of MMA, I'd be like, dope. Like, this is a good example of me. Like, his best performance is the Jon Jones fight. It just is. Like, he did so good against Jon, arguably beat Jon Jones, and just kept on losing to Jan, Yuri. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it really is a tragic fall from grace, but I never was able to get behind Dominic Reyes as much as other people were, and I don't even think a lot of people are behind Dominic Reyes. I'm sure there's a few of you watching that are still surprised that Dominic Reyes is still fighting, and honestly, every once in a while, I forget that Dominic Reyes is fighting, and then I'll hear a news article announcing Dominic Reyes pulls out of a fight, and I'm like, Bro's still fighting? What's he doing right now? But yeah, no, I'll be a meh. Jim Miller. Yeah. Jim Miller's kind of like that grandpa, not that grandpa, that like great grandpa that is like always comes along to those like family meeting. I don't want to say comes to the family gatherings. I mean like you go to him because he can't travel anymore. And you're like, bro, I don't even know if I want to live as long as you. Like we're in that type of situation. Like there's a moment, like past 85 years, where it's like, I don't know if I want to live that long, and genetically I might be predisposed to that. That's a perfect example of Jim Miller's MMA career. We're just kind of all, sitting at the table and seeing how old Pop gets. That's how I feel about Jim Miller. Just keep on fighting, dude. I really like it. I want him to retire at UFC 300. Do not quote me on this. I believe he fought on UFC 100, 200, and he wants to do a card on 300. Dana White's already confirmed that he will find him a fight for 300, and I think I found the opponent for him. We'll see. But I'll be pretty bummed when he's gone just because that is a veteran of the sport. People trash him. Daniel Cormier said that Jim Miller doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame just because he was fighting for a long time, and I get it. I understand his point because Daniel Cormier earned his spot in the Hall of Fame, but like, for real, you deserve something for fighting as long as Jim Miller does. I'll be pretty bummed when he's gone. Conor McGregor. I don't want to say depressed because we've already seen what the UFC is like without Conor, and it's not terrible. I will be pretty distraught about it because as much as people want to undermine what Conor McGregor has been able to do for the sport, this is going to sound like a glazed session, but this is true. This is what I genuinely believe. There will never be another fighter like Conor McGregor. There will never be another fighter that will reach the heights of what Conor McGregor was able to do. This is also going to sound crazy. Conor McGregor, in terms of star power relative, he is almost a cultural icon. Like, he is near, like, Muhammad Ali levels of a cultural icon. In 10 years, 20 years, when when we're looking back on this, there will be Conor McGregor references in like The Simpsons and shit. Because McGregor has reached that point of like cultural icon that like when Conor McGregor eventually dies, he will be seen as a legend. That is a truth. There will never be another fighter like Conor. I don't think we'll ever get stars like Conor. I think we'll get lots of like smaller stars that'll be comparable to Conor in the future, but just never at that level. Yeah, I'll be pretty distraught when he's gone because then that's, in my opinion, that is the end of the UFC becoming popular era. I think that will be where the UFC goes from like going up like this to kind of like stabilizing and will like slightly grow over the years. But I think that'll be the end of the golden era. Dustin Poirier. I'll probably just be sad. Honestly, like, I like Dustin. Dustin seems like a cool dude unless you say something bad to him. But I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent on Dustin Poirier. Not as indifferent as these few people. Like, if Dustin Poirier loses to Benoit Saint-Denis, if that fight's happened already, If Dustin Poirier loses to Benoit Saint-Denis and says, you know what, guys, I've made my money, I'm done. I'll be like, good on you. Good on you. Because, I'm going to say this. I believe a UFC fighter needs to retire when it's outside of the realm of possibility that they could fight for the championship. If you're not making crazy money and you're not fighting for a belt or you don't think you're going to be fighting for a belt, there's literally no reason for you to do this. Like, we all love MMA. Let's not pretend like this is good for you. This is why we love the sport. These guys have lost years off their life, quality of life in the future, for entertainment for us, and they all deserve that respect. Like, I won't be happy when somebody retires. I'll be kind of sad. Dustin Poirier, I'll be pretty sad. Yeah, I'll be pretty sad. Dominick Cruz. I guess this one's another sad. Maybe I'll be bummed. Yeah, I'll be bummed. Frankly, because Dominick Cruz, I'm impressed that he's able to fight at the level that he does for as long as he is. Same thing with Cejudo. A little bit more than Jim Miller. Jim Miller, let's be real, is fighting guys that are fighting on the prelims. Dominick Cruz was fighting top-ranked bantamweights after losing the belt. Like, you gotta respect Dominick Cruz. I understand he's annoying, but like you gotta respect the guy. I'll be bummed, but this is why I say bummed and not sad. Because I know he's going to get a commentary job. I know he's going to get an analyst job. Because Dominick Cruz has a mind for martial arts. I don't think we'll ever get rid of Dominick Cruz. I think he will be a sports analyst or commentator for the rest of his career. And those guys, I'm only going to be bummed because it's not like we're losing out on them completely. But like, when Charles is done, Max is done, I can see them just disappearing from the public view. Because I don't think they're interested in it. Dominick Cruz will be a part of the UFC scene in the future. Cody Garbrandt, another one. I'll be bummed, but at the same time, I think it's ran its course. I don't want to see him lose more brain cells. I just don't. I'll be bummed when Cody Garbrandt is gone. Actually, you know what? No, I'll be more sad because there's something about Cody Garbrandt, and if you know his like life story, you know some of the ups and downs he's had. You feel more for his fall from grace than you would normally feel for like a Dominick Cruz. I'm happy he's getting a win streak, but in my opinion, you do a fight with Figueiredo if you win. You know what? I don't even know. Next time he suffers a horrific KO, just win one more. Done. I'll be sad when he's done. Kamaru Usman. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to say top of bummed to sad because Kamaru Usman, I feel like, would be a decent commentator. Like, Kamaru Usman's a pretty good speaker. I can see Kamaru Usman having a Daniel Cormier-esque retirement. Like, he's going to become a commentator or a sports analyst, and people are going to find that his personality's pretty good for that job, just not fighting. And he's going to become a fan favorite after he retires. That's what happened to Daniel Cormier. People didn't like Daniel Cormier when he was fighting. People really didn't like Kamaru Usman when he was champion. Come to find out, he was probably one of our best champions, looking at Leon Edwards. I'll miss Kamaru Usman, but I have a feeling he's going to become a sports analyst or a commentator. Cross your fingers. Volkanovski. Yeah. I will be very depressed when Volka's gone, bro. Because it's going to end bad. I am telling you this right now. As much as I love Volkanovski, dude, as much as I love being a Volkanovski fan, Volkanovski is not going to be a guy to go out on a win. Volkanovski is going to get viciously KO'd in his final fight, and then he's going to say, I'm done. Like, he's going to say, I know that's a joke, but, yeah, no, Volkanovski is not going out on a win. He does not strike me as the type of dude to want to go out on a win. I think he wants to go out on a sealed. I respect that. I just have a bad feeling Ilya's just going to chin him bad, and it's going to be a bad KO. And I think I just don't want Volkanovski to go on a losing streak, and then people are going to say, oh, Max Holloway's better. See? Max Holloway's always been better. No. Volkanovski, once you lose the title, you're the best featherweight to ever live. End it, please. WonderBoy. I'll be distraught when WonderBoy has been a fan favorite for a while. Like, I would argue, in terms of, like, length of how much they've been loved by the fans, WonderBoy's up there with, like, a Conor or, like, a Max Holloway for how long they have been loved. Yeah, no, he's not as popular as Conor. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, show me somebody who dislikes WonderBoy. Legitimately. Like, how do you not root for him? And I think, this is what I think you do. I think you do WonderBoy versus Colby Covington. If WonderBoy beats Colby, awesome. And then you can do WonderBoy versus Ian Gary. And then I see that as almost being like, you win, you lose. And then you retire on that. I don't want him to be fighting for too much longer. Isn't he like 39 or 40? Like, he's pretty old. I don't want him to see any more punishment. Just go out on a win. WonderBoy's a guy that I believe would have the discipline to go out on a win. That is a legitimate talent. Derrick Lewis. Yeah, no, Derrick Lewis, I'll be really sad when he's gone. Not quite distraught. Because Derrick Lewis is one of the few funny and marketable people at heavyweight. Heavyweight has always historically lacked personality outside of the top 5. That's a fact. That's why they relied so heavily on like somebody like Brock Lesnar. Because heavyweights don't have personality, dude. It is so weird to have Tom Aspinall, a dude that can legitimately talk in that division, because normally that's in a lighter weight class. Derrick Lewis is the weird thing that defies that rule. Derrick Lewis is a fan favorite outside of the top 5 of heavyweight. People care about him. They just don't give a shit for who he fights. I think he'll fight for a minute. Derrick Lewis also strikes me as the type of dude that, like, he's just going to keep on fighting. And he's going to well, I got that bag, man. I think I'm done now. Like, I think once he makes enough money, he's going to be like, man, fuck this, I'm out. Honestly. Does Derrick Lewis not strike you as the type of dude that, like, yeah, I know I'm on, like, a 6-fight losing streak, but, like, I'm getting paid, though. Like, he took the Almeida fight because he was getting paid. Let's be real. That's what it was. I'll be sad when he's gone, but I think we got a little bit longer with him. Anthony Smith. Meh. Anthony Smith needs to retire, dude. He just does. I'm sorry. You have an analyst job. Why are you fighting? Like, you're getting paid from the UFC doing a desk job. There's no reason to be fighting. You're not going to win the belt. As much as I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I'll be meh when he's gone because it'll be like, well, about damn time you retired because you're not going to get a title shot and you're not going to win the title. I'm sorry. Khalil Roundtree was the final nail in the coffin. End it. Beneil Dariush. I'll be bummed. Because Beneil's just the least marketable guy in an extremely marketable division, and that's why he was treated the way he was. And I think the Arman Sarukian loss is the beginning of the end, frankly. Now, don't get me wrong, this could age horribly and he gets a win against like a Rafael Fiziev. But honestly, I can see a scenario where now he's a little bit chinny and gets KO'd by a Rafael Fiziev and maybe even a Jalen Turner. Like, I think we're going to be in that point now where we're going to see the cascading of his career. Clay Guida. Again, Clay Guida is a legend, dude. Like, anybody who doesn't know who Clay Guida is, bro is still fighting and was doing better. I'm sorry if I forget his name. It was a guy named Silva that Arman was losing to. Clay Guida actually was doing pretty well in that fight. I think, in my opinion, you do Clay Guida either against Jim. This is what I think they're going to do. Jim Miller against Paul Felder for UFC 300 and do Clay Guida against Tony Ferguson. This is going to sound mean, but I believe if Tony Ferguson loses to Clay Guida, Tony Ferguson officially has the longest losing streak in MMA history. And if Clay Guida loses to Tony Ferguson, Clay Guida has the most losses in MMA history. Let's do it. Let's set records. If Tony Ferguson wants to fight, why not? Throw him Clay Guida. Let's see what happens. And finally, Tony Ferguson. I would have been sad. Now I'm just going to be distraught. Purely because it's time, Tony. It's done. We need to end this now, man. You are losing brain cells by the day. You do not have a dedicated team because every time you've had a dedicated team, they have told you to retire. That's just the sad facts. You have a family. Hopefully you've made enough money. It is what it is. I'm sorry. Like, sometimes you need that pep talk. It's done, Tony. Go home. Somebody needs to say that to the man. And I think that's going to be it. I know there's some people that didn't quite make the list, but I wanted to leave it to people that I see would retire in the next 3 years. Obviously, I could have put on, like, Islam Makhachev, but I think we got a solid 4 to 5 years out of Islam before we're done. So, yep, that's going to be the list. I think I did pretty well. This is, of course, very subjective of who I will miss the most. But tell me in the comment section who you're going to miss the most on this tier list when they eventually and inevitably leave the organization. That's going to be it for the video. Thank you for watching as always. And with that out of the way, adios, guys.